guys, I'm Sarah, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to the first clip of my February reading wrap-up. Yeah, sorry about the poor lighting. I have to do this in the evening because it is the only time I found to film today. So, we're here. Sorry about the weird lighting. I'll try to do the other clips in daylight hours, but we'll just have to see how things go. I already have quite a few books to talk about, so yeah, we're just going to dive right into those. But first, if you want further thoughts and content details on these books, I have all my Goodreads reviews linked down in the description, so you can check those out. Participating in several reading challenges this year. I'm also participating in the February readathon hosted by Tay from Tales and Treats with Tay. She did this last year, and I'm very excited she brought it back this year. We have different prompts this year. There's a whole bunch of things going on, and yeah, I've read, in regards to that, since it's surrounding fairy tale retellings, I've read actually quite a few of those this month. I've read a mixed bag of things. It's really quite weird. So the first ones I'm going to start with are just continuations of My Hero Academia. I read volumes 19 and 20 so far. Really good. Again, I can't say much about it. They're participating in a school festival. Their school's festival, and Deku, as he's prone, runs across another villain, and he is still trying to help the little girl that they rescued in the previous arc. And yeah, this volume, 19, I rated 4 stars. One of the characters was also doing something very weird in here, like he needs to learn what stalking is and quit doing it. But anyways, but yeah, I really enjoyed this arc. These dorks are just also lovable, and yeah, in watching the anime, I'm loving them even more now. And in volume 20, I gave 4.5 stars. This is the highest rated volume so far of this series, and I did it for a lot of reasons, but purely for our little girl here that they rescued. There's a scene that they're trying to get her to smile because she's been through such horrific things, and she eventually smiles in the story, and it made me tear up. And if you've read it or watched the anime, I'm sure it's in the anime, I haven't reached that part yet, but if you've read this, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that precious scene alone gave it a half star. So yeah, but yeah, still super enjoying this series. I'm currently reading volume 21, still really enjoying it. This one ends in a way that I immediately had to pick up the next one. This is a really good series, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Okay, so with the continuations out of the way, we're just gonna jump right into technically the first book I read this month, and this one. That is Crimson Claws by Abigail Manning. This is the first book in her Ruby Realm series or something. It doesn't really matter. It's a Little Red Riding Hood retelling. I gave this book 2 stars. Now, the basic premise is, let's see, how do I succinctly say the basic premise? Our main character is Ro. She lives with her grandmother. They're bakers in this little town. They live just the 2 of them by themselves, and because Ro's father, like, abandoned the family, like, 7 years ago, and Ro still hasn't forgiven him for it, and yeah, there's a lot of circumstances surrounding that, and so her father's past basically comes and catches up to her, and she gets kidnapped by this dastardly, like, terrorist group in this kingdom, and yeah, it just goes from there. It's a very vague premise of the book, I'm sorry, but I really don't care much because I didn't really like this book. Okay, I finished it. Well, barely. I skimmed the last few chapters because I was so done with it by then, but I did want to see if my predictions were correct. They all were. Hooray. I was very bored. Anyways, the beginning of this book started out okay. I don't like our main character. She's one of those... She is the whole reason I don't like girl boss characters. She's one of the poorly written type. The type that everyone tells her how awesome she is. She is awesome. She has, like, very few flaws. She has, like, 2 little flaws. And the rest, everything she does is awesome. She manages to escape kidnappers multiple times. She manages to do everything correctly except get help from people who can actually help her rescue her grandmother from these kidnappers. But no, she has to do it by herself because she's awesome. I wanted to beat her over the head by the time I was done with this book. Anyways, her love interest, Zach, he was fine. I had no qualms with him, except that I really don't know what he saw in Roe, and he could have done so much better, but I digress. And the plot made absolutely no sense. I mean, like, it really made no sense because it felt like time constraints, like, you know, days of riding or whatever, you know, time, like travel time, didn't seem to make sense. It seemed like these villains and the heroes even could get around or not get around so much as if the plot wanted them to. So it's like the plot was controlling travel time and stuff. It was very weird. A lot of things didn't correlate or line up correctly that way. Also, it's a mild spoiler, but not really. But okay, this terrorist group is looking for this particular herbalist who made these poisons for them. That's all I'll say on that. So they've been trying to track this person down for 7 years. You couldn't have found a different herbalist in your same kingdom who could also make poisons for you in 7 years. So you're still trying to track down this person, track down their family so you can threaten this person for 7 years. You couldn't have found someone else? Yeah, this overlord dude who hired these villains, yeah, he's gonna be able to take over the world real quickly. That made no sense. It's just like, find someone else. If it takes this much time, just, yeah, you can easily just threaten someone else to do it. I mean, seriously. That just was like, what? I mean, I could have believed it if it was the cliche answer of the person had a certain like magic that made the poisons like really potent or something. So it's like they killed people off really, really well. So it's like, okay, this is why we need this person. But no, it's revealed no magic was used in making these poisons. Are you kidding me? Why were they looking for this person for 7 years then? It makes no sense. Oh, by the end of this book, I was just skimming chapters. I did not care. I just wanted to kind of know if my predictions were correct on things. Every single one of them were correct, and I did not care. And this is nothing against the author or even the book itself. It's fine. She has good ideas and stuff. It didn't work for me. Also, the writing style is very young YA, I would call it. The characters even acted kind of that way. Yeah, so, which may have been adding to the whole girl bossery thing. No, they're in adult stuff too, but whatever. Yeah. I did not like this book. I do not want to spend any more time talking about it. I did use it for a prompt for the Once Upon a February readathon, though. I used it for Stroke of Midnight, a booktuber recommendation, because I do know Christy talked about this from Christy A. Cole. She liked it, though. I just don't have very many other books that other booktubers have recommended, because I read such obscure books. Most of the time, if people have read those books, I have already read them. Most of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. So I used that one for this prompt, even though I didn't like the book. Really sorry if you see this, Christy. Really sorry. I'm glad you liked it, though. I really am, but I did not. So, it is what it is. Moving on. Okay, so the next book I read I did like, and that is Winter Cursed by Nikki Chapoy. This is the first book in her Winter Cursed trilogy. There's 3 books, but one of them is technically it's a trilogy. Whatever. There's 3 books in it. Anyways, this is a novella. It's a dark fantasy retelling of Snow White. And yeah, in this one we follow Elizabeth, our Snow White character. She has been, apparently by her crazy evil stepmother, she's been cursed to die because she hates her. And yeah, the whole kingdom is frozen in this like icy wasteland, has been her whole life. So anyways, the queen is out to kill her. So Elizabeth runs away. She runs into this like dark magical forest. Like nobody goes in there. Like it's bad news. There's like horrible creatures that wander around in there. You're gonna die. The only people who have ever gone in there are people who were exiled. Well, what do you know? She finds a cottage with these 7 mercenary dwarves in it, and they work for a exiled prince that, well, her father, Elizabeth's father, the king, banished when he was 10. Yeah, I don't know why you would banish a 10-year-old to an enchanted wood, but that is beside the point. That is what happened. So anyways, So she doesn't trust Cedric, our Dark Prince character. She doesn't trust him one bit. I'm not sure why. I'll get into that later. But anyways, she doesn't trust him one bit, but she needs his and the dwarves' help to overthrow her stepmother and free her kingdom of this icy winter and, you know, get rid of the person who wants to murder her for existing. So the story goes from there. It's a novella, so I can't say much more than that. The problem is, it's a novella. It is well written. The characters are well written. I cared for them. I really wanted to see them succeed. The thing is, the plot of this story feels like it belongs in a bigger book. It was just really, really condensed into this one. But the sequel is longer, so I'm kind of seeing this as it's a springboard to, like, it's setting up everything, and then, like, yeah, it's all wrapped up nicely, except for, like, one tiny little cliffhanger that clearly tells you there's more to the story. So yeah, it just felt very condensed, which it was originally written for a novella writing contest to be accepted into an anthology, so that's why it's a novella, and she didn't expand it into a novel when she republished it, or when she published it, excuse me. So yeah, I'm seeing it as just a springboard for the second book, and yeah. So, speaking of the characters, I really like the dwarves. It would take me a bit to identify all of them because, you know, there's 7 of them. That always confuses me in these fairy tale retellings. Like, the 12 Dancing Princesses and the 7 Dwarves. Those are always the ones that mix me up because it's, like, not mix them up, but, like, there's so many of them that they often are just bland and just, like, caricatures or whatever. But the dwarves all had separate personalities. I liked them. I liked Elizabeth. I do feel like she was a little judgmental of Cedric, our prince character, because, okay, he was exiled when he was 10. She was like I think she was either a baby or a toddler, something like that. So, and then she kind of goes when she goes in the forest, she meets him and stuff. She's like, I can't trust him because of what his father did, hence the whole reason Cedric was banished, that sort of thing, and stuff like that. So it's like, but I'm sitting there thinking, when she's like, I can't trust him, he's suspicious, he'll do all these evil things, and I'm like, he was 10, girl. Why do you suddenly think he's going to be like his father, who you also didn't know, I might add? You don't know if he's going to be like his father. You don't know the guy. He really hasn't shown you anyway that he's going to harm you in any way, and, like, why are you being so bloody suspicious of him? It doesn't match up, because he hasn't done anything, except survive in this enchanted, creepy forest by himself. So yeah, I felt her suspicions and her, like, snappish remarks towards him were a little unfounded. Like, she was a little judgmental. He did call her out on it several times, so props to him for that. I really liked Cedric. He was probably my favorite character. He was the most interesting character because he acts one way, but, like, you see his thoughts partially, and, like, you can tell he thinks differently about certain things and say his actions go. And he's a very Flynn Rider-esque character. I really enjoy him. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading the next book and the prequel, because there's a prequel of, like, the villain, how the villain became to be. I don't really like villain origin stories, but I'm gonna read this one just because I am intrigued, and it's Nikki's book and I own the ebook, so yeah, I'm gonna try it anyways, even though I don't really like villain origin stories. But yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. Also has some Celtic and Norse, like, mythology and folklore in there and stuff, so I really like that aspect. So yeah, and I also use this for the readathon, and I use this for True Love's Kiss, a clean fairy tale retelling. The next one I read is a short story. It's a Christian Western Sleeping Beauty retelling, and that is The Man on the Buckskin Horse by Rachel Cavency? I don't know if that's how you say her last name or not. I apologize if that's incorrect. This is part of her Once Upon a Western series. I was almost gonna call it Once Upon a Prince. That's a different series. Anyways, and yeah, this one's a this one's also a novella, so I can't say too much about this one. We follow Emma. She's a midwife in this little Nebraska western town, and she goes to her neighbor's place one day because she hears through, like, the grapevine that this really rich rancher lady, she's going to try to use this hired gunman to either force him, her friend, to either force him to marry her or give up his land. So Emma goes to warn him, and yeah, the lady shows up with her gunman, things happen, and the Emma's friend's daughter, I forget what her name is, Rosalind? Anyways, she, like, trips and falls, and she stabs her hand through a spindle, on a spinning wheel, and, like, yeah, now her wound is festering. The other lady is going after more gunmen because her previous gunman is like, yeah, you didn't tell me you were threatening somebody who, like, hadn't done anything wrong to you, so I'm not doing this anymore. And things go from there. I've been intrigued by this story ever since it was in the 5 Magic Spindles anthology collection, which is, like, it's a collection of Sleeping Beauty retellings. This one was, like, the first one. I read the sample of it a long time ago, and then I was very curious about it since then. The author has since then gotten the rights to publish it herself, and gotten the rights back to publish it herself, I should say, and I really enjoyed this. It was just really short, really good. I am not a Western person. Well, I mean, I like the West. I mean, the West of the United States. I live in the Western United States, but and I love the West and stuff, but Westerns as a genre, I've never particularly liked. Like, I like the vibe of it, but I can't ever recall any story set in that time frame that I've liked. Like, any movie, anything like that. I've never been into Western movies, so that was kind of partially the reason why I've never picked up these books. I figured they'd be kind of boring. But I really enjoyed this one, and now I really want to check out the rest of her series. Yeah, I really liked this one. I really liked the way she wrote it. The characters felt very real, even for such a short little book. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. And I highly recommend it. If you want, like, a Christian Western or something like that. Like, say, if you read, like, a lot of Karen Winnemeyer, but you want, like, say, a different type on it, or, like, a fairy tale bent on it, this one would be really good. And I don't think it connects to any of the other books in the series. I think all the books in this series are all standalones. Like, some of them might have some crossover, but I don't think so. I think they're all standalones. So, yeah. I really enjoyed this one. I definitely want to try out more of her books now. And I gave this one also 4 stars. I used it for the readathon as well for Hidden Identity, a new to you author. Oh, I forgot to mention, I also used My Hero Academia 20 for one of the prompts. I used it for Beauty, Something Beautiful. I did it for, the one scene with the little girl smiling. So that's what I did it for. This cover is not my favorite. That's not what I did it for. But yeah, I did it for something in the story, so forgot to mention that one. Okay, I'm going to do these 2 really quick because I don't have much to say about them. The first one is When You Found Me by Anna Augustine. This is a collection of 3 Christian fantasy non-magical novellas. They all follow different princes in this kingdom who are finding love. They're also loosely based off of biblical stories, the biblical stories of Esther, Ruth, and Jael. So, yeah, it just follows these 3 different characters. It's like one novella at a time, following their romances and stuff. I enjoyed this one. I gave it 3.5 stars. The first story is not my favorite, I will say that, because, which is kind of the Esther one, it's also enemies to lovers, I think? I don't know. This is the big reason why I don't really like enemies to lovers. I felt like the enemies part was ridiculous, mainly on the girl's end, because she didn't want to be there and stuff like that, so she was kind of nasty to everybody for a lot of it, but also, like, it's like, by the end, she was in love with the prince and stuff, and I felt like that was kind of a 180. I don't know if it was just because it was a novella, and it's like, it felt really fast, but yeah, kind of similar to Elizabeth and Cedric in Winter Cursed. I forgot to mention that too. That one's kind of enemies to lovers too, but that one felt very sudden too, where Elizabeth was always griping at him, and then suddenly she turns around and she likes him, so it's kind of like, okay. But yeah, this one was similar, and then the next two novellas I liked way better. I thought the author's writing kicked up a notch. The characters were much better. I was much more engaged with those. So yeah, I did enjoy these. It's just, and I think I would enjoy more from this author. This is the author's first book. she has other books published, but this was like her debut. So I think for a debut, it's very good. But yeah, there was just those little bits, and I wasn't, like, I was interested in it, but it wasn't enough to be a 4-star, if you know what I mean. And so yeah, there was that one. I also used that for the readathon as well. For Faithful Companion, a favorite genre, I used it for Christian fantasy, which is one of my favorite genres. I also used it for Morrigan's Christian fantasy reading challenge, and I did it for a low fantasy because it's very small world. It doesn't really have like big stakes or anything like that, so I think it fit well for a low fantasy. And then I read its sequel short story, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. This one I gave 3 stars. It's just a sequel short story. It's set like a year, I don't know how many years after the events of what happened in the previous book. And it kind of is, it's kind of like a Christmas short story, even though Christmas really isn't a huge part of it, but yeah, basically one of their family members, they were supposed to be coming to the castle for Christmas, and he and his wife don't show up, so the 3 princes go out into the snowstorm to go find them. It's basically the whole premise of the story, but it was nice seeing where everybody had ended up, and them with their kids and stuff like that, so yeah, I enjoyed that. I used It Came Upon a Midnight Clear for Chantel's Read Your Bookshelf Challenge. I used it for the February prompt, which is size. I did it for the short length. It's only 44 pages. It is the shortest thing I have read so far this month, and also I think this year. So yeah, that's what I used it for in that prompt. And then the next book I have is an ARC I got from the author in exchange for an honest review. So thank you very much to the author for gifting me a copy of this book. And I talked about this book actually in my anticipated books from January to April, so I'll leave a link to that video down in the description in case you missed it. And that is The Shapeshifter Drives a Bargain by Claire Trella Hill. This one I gave 3.5 stars. This is again a novella. I read a lot of those apparently. This is a novella, a fantasy novella. Basically, this girl Tansy, she often goes out into the swamp to like gather herbs and stuff because she's a practicing herbalist. And then one day she gets lost in the swamp and she follows these blinking lights, and they lead her to this fey man who basically says, oh, my lures, the lights I guess, led me to you. Great, I will make a bargain with you. I want your firstborn child. And she's like, what? Like, I'm not going to have a kid and then just hand him over to you. What are you talking about? So yeah, so basically he kidnaps her until she agrees to his bargain. And they eventually fall in love because obviously it's a romance. Okay, so this one, I will say the author handled the he kidnapped her until she like agrees with him thing fairly well. They did get to know each other a bit. Again, this is like an enemies to lover situation for obvious reasons. I liked the main character. I thought she had a good head on her shoulders. The fake guy I was fine with. He really didn't set apart anything for me. But yeah, I enjoyed the vibes of the swamp. I did feel the romance was a little quick. It is also a novella, so that is a problem with those. And they did, there is a fade to black between an unmarried couple. So, that was a little fast. I was like, okay, wow, you guys seem to hate each other like 2 pages ago, and now you're doing this. Oh, okay. Nothing's shown, or anything like that, but it's like, okay, that happened. So yeah, I overall enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed the first novel in this series, When a Dragon Comes Courting, better. Mainly because there wasn't the whole weird kidnapping enemies to lovers plotline, which, yeah, I have said before when I talked about a previous book that I read that has this trope, this, kidnapper and kidnappee fall in love thing. I thought that book handled it a little better, but that is just my personal opinion. This was handled fine. It's not weird. Well, I mean, it is kind of weird. He does kidnap her and they fall in love. But anyways, within this trope, it's not weird how they end up falling in love, and it's like, it's believable by the end and stuff. So yeah, there is that. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I will definitely still be checking out more from this author. This one, just of the 2 books I've read by her, is not my favorite. I do prefer When a Dragon Comes Courting better. So yeah, so I'm going to start off this clip with a DNF, because I'm once again selecting a bunch of books that I'm not sure if I still want to keep and rereading them, trying to see. So this is the first one I've reread this year, or at least in part, because I DNF'd it. That's Purple Moon by Tessa Emily Hall. This is YA Christian Contemporary, and yeah, it's just about Selena, and her life isn't going great, and she's going to her aunt and uncle's for the summer, and it's her journey to faith and just overall being a better person. Anyways, I read this a lot when I was younger, and I really enjoyed it. I wanted to reread it and see if I liked it. I also had the sequel on my Kindle, so I wanted to see if I wanted to read that. I got about to, where did I get to? I got to 60 pages in, so about that much. And it's just not clicking with me the same way it used to. I still think it's well written. I did also think this could just be Selena's perspective on things, which is kind of skewing my view of things. I do think one of the characters, when she calls him a little judgmental, I think she's kind of correct on that. I did find him a little too much judgmental. That could just be his personality flaw too that the author put in. So that is highly possible. But I don't know, I just didn't I found it kind of irritating this time around. Also, I don't know. I don't know, I found the faith content a tiny bit preachy, like minimal. But towards the end, because I was flipping through it, and towards the end, it doesn't really sound that preachy. So again, it could be the way the author wrote Selena's perspective and viewing things. But I don't know, the book isn't just clicking with me like it used to. So on Goodreads, I still have it ranked as 5 stars because back when I first read this, I would have still rated it that. So I'm leaving the rating. I did put an explanation review of why I left it as the rating, but I'm also have it as a DNF because yeah, I didn't finish it. Because yeah, it's just not fitting with me anymore. I think just my reading tastes have changed and just what I like in contemporary specifically, because contemporary I'm very picky on now, because that used to be mainly what I read when I was younger, which is kind of weird because I'm predominantly fantasy, kind of have always been, but also I did used to read a lot of contemporary when I was younger. So yeah, I'm going to be unhauling this one, and yeah, it's a good book. I would still recommend it, especially if you like YA Christian Contemporary. But yeah, it just doesn't fit for me anymore, and I have limited space on my shelves and stuff, so yeah, if it doesn't fit for me, it goes. So yeah, I will be unhauling this one, but it's still a good book. And I continued more My Hero Academia. I read volumes 21, 22, 23, and 24. So yeah, and I'm waiting for the library to get me 25. So these 3 specifically I rated 4 stars. Again, I can't tell you much about them like at all because of I'm so far in the series now, but yeah, I'm still really enjoying it, really interested to see where it's going. This arc, I don't think it started. Yes, it did start in this one. So in this one they do have a training, there's kind of like a training arc through this one where the kids are, or the teens are learning more combat skills and stuff, and it's one class versus another. I really liked that arc. I really like seeing how the characters have grown in their different strategies and stuff, so I did really enjoy that arc. And starting in 23, into 24 though, we're following the League of Villains, which is basically the big bad guys, and we're like getting some of their backstory and stuff, which is an interesting twist on things. I don't like any of the villains per se, but I do appreciate that they're good villains. 24, I did rate 3 stars. It's not because it's written badly or anything, because the writing in this is really, really good, really engaging, and like, you know, the mangaka is making me actually kind of feel sympathy and slight like towards these villains, or at least some of them, a little bit. It's just our main villain guy here, the guy with the pants all over him here in the middle, Shigaraki. We do get the start of his backstory. I think it continues into volume 25. I don't have it yet though, so I can't confirm that. But Yeah, it starts his backstory, and his backstory really triggered me. So much so I got into really bad mental state for like several days. So I had to really kind of steel myself and know going in that this was going to be in there when I actually read the volume, which I was fine the second time I read it. So yeah, I was just flipping through it. The first time was caught off guard. Yeah, and that's how I got triggered. But that's the whole reason I docked it a star, because of that triggering content, at least for me, because yeah, that was just very, I was kind of blindsided by it. So yeah. But that is the only reason. It's still a really good series. I'm really enjoying it, and I really wish the library would send me volume 25, because I have volumes 26 through 29, but I can't read them yet because I don't have volume 25. Last book I have for this clip is a nonfiction. That is Save the Cat Writes a Novel, the last book on novel writing you'll ever need by Jessica Brody. This is like a plotting writing craft book, and yeah, my friend mentioned it when we were talking about our books and stuff, and how I was struggling with like my character arcs and stuff in my current book. She mentioned this book, and I had heard of this book before. Lots of people use it and stuff, but I have this thing with plotting books where it always feels like I'm being trapped in a box, because like the 3-act story structure and stuff, it's so intense and so specific with like, you have to do this certain thing at this percentage mark, or like your whole book will fall apart. That's like the vibe that they go with, and I just always feel very trapped by that. So I always just figured those types of things are for me. I know the 3-act story structure, so it's like, okay, maybe that's all I need. But sometimes when I'm trying to like plan a series that has like maybe an overarching plot line or something, I have issues with it, because then I'm kind of floundering a bit, because it's like I would like a little bit of structure, like at least bullet points of where I'm going, but I just never can get to that point, because yeah, it's so structured, or it's like so loose that it's like, okay, maybe something in between. And I think this book is really in between that. Yeah, it pretty much follows the 3-act story structure, but with like different things of the way plot structure and stuff is named and things like that. And I really clicked with this. When I was reading it, I was actually feeling excited to want to go read, and as opposed to most craft books, when I read them, I don't feel excited. I feel like, oh no, I'm gonna do something wrong, so then it makes me not want to go read it or go write. So, but this one made me actually want to go write. It actually made me think differently about the way I'm going with my current book. So yeah, I haven't tried it yet, but yeah, 4 stars. I would definitely read it again. So yeah, if you're more of a pantser discovery writer like I am, this book might work better for you than if you're a strict plotter. I think either one can use this book, but I think strict plotters might find this a little too loose. I don't really know though, because, you know, I'm not one of those people. But if you're a pantser discovery writer who's often not helped with craft books like I am, this one could be good for you. So yeah, I would recommend trying this out. Okay, so final clip of this video. I forgot to talk about this book. Actually, I did talk about it, but I didn't like what I said. I changed my opinions on it, so I got rid of that clip. And then when I filmed the previous clip to this one, I forgot to include this one again. So anyways, we're going to talk about it now. And that is Second Star to the Right. This is by Sarah Baran. This is the first book in the Order of the Fountain series. It's a Christian fantasy fairy tale retelling series, and this one's a retelling of Peter Pan. Now, I'm filming this near the end of March, because if you guys read my community post, you know that my life has been rather nuts lately. So, I don't remember a ton of details about this book. So basically in this one, our Peter Pan character, Pan, he is like a prince of this kingdom. This is not a spoiler. This is on the back cover. It's also in like the first chapter, or the prologue, the first chapter. Yeah. So, he's this prince of this kingdom who's been kidnapped by pirates. He's been raised by pirates. He doesn't even know he's a prince. And yeah, through a series of events, the pirate captain wants him to steal something from this kingdom, or he will kill him and his friend Smee on the boat. So he like gets hired as a guard in training at this castle where he's supposed to steal stuff. He meets the princess there named Melanie. She's part of this order of like spies. It goes from there. That's pretty much all I remember. I gave this book 3 stars. I felt very meh about this book. The more I think about it, the less I like it, actually. Not that I think about it that much, but every time I bring it up, I'm just always like, oh yeah, that book. It exists. And that's pretty much it. So, yeah, I just felt very mad about it. The romance felt weird. I really I don't know why the romance was there in all actuality. It's kind of like it was just thrown in there. The first half of the book with Pan being on the pirate ship and having to watch his step and waiting for just the other shoe to drop with the pirate captain, I like that part. That part worked for me because it was very tense and stuff. But when he got to the place where the castle and stuff on land where he had to steal this map or whatever, I don't know, it just felt like, I don't know, the story was just there, and then the resolution was just there, and the order was just there, and I don't know, it was just a there kind of book. The ending didn't feel very satisfying. I don't know. There were no puns either, which is really sad to me because I've read 2 of her previous books, her newer books. This is I think the author's first book, so it kind of shows compared to her newer ones, and I didn't like it. I really just didn't like it that much. Yeah, I also felt for a Christian fantasy, it is marketed as a Christian fantasy, it didn't really have any faith content, which is kind of weird. They mentioned a couple things with the creator, who is God in this story, and that was kind of it. There were no faith journeys for either of the characters. There was no anything like that. So I thought that was kind of weird. And yeah, it was just kind of there, and yeah, there were no puns, which I found very disappointing. There might have been one. I don't know, it just didn't feel like the same author who wrote the other 2 books I read by her, which is Callie and the Pumpkin Seed, which is really good, and To Crack a Soldier, which is also good. That one I remember I rated To Crack a Soldier 3.5 stars, but after reading this book, that one was better. Yeah, I don't know. I have a few other books in this series that I got on sale and stuff as ebooks. I'll try at least one more in this series. If I still feel the same way about that one, I'm probably just gonna drop this series and go with her newer books, because this one didn't really leave much of an impression on me, aside from just, it was there. So, which is kind of disappointing. But, yeah, I don't always even if I like an author's books, I don't always like every single book that they write. There's very few authors where I like everything they write, so, yeah. Anyways, I also used this book for the Once Upon a February readathon. I used it for Prince, which was more than one POV, because there were several different points of views in this one. So I used that, and then I also used it for Morgan's Christian Fantasy Reading Challenge for a retelling, because obviously it's a retelling of Peter Pan. So yeah, that is it. Those are all the books I read in February. Thank you guys so much for being so patient waiting for this video. I did not plan for this to take so long. Obviously, weird situations happened in my family. So yeah, if you didn't read my community post I put out a week or 2 ago, I forget at this point. Yeah, my grandma fell and broke her hip, and now she's in rehab, and the world is just really weird right now. It's really stressful, and because she's also showing signs of dementia, so she's 92, so and yeah, it's a really stressful time for me and my family. So yeah, I will still continue to try to get videos out when I can, but they're gonna be very sporadic. If you guys have been praying for us, thank you very much for all those prayers and the comments I got on the community post and just everything for this situation. Yeah, it's just very stressful, and life is not going normally, so to speak. So yeah, so I appreciate you guys sticking around while I'm not here, watching these videos, even when I am here. Yeah, I just really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for watching this video. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye!